Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Down. Now, last night, I went and saw a movie. Normally, I would have done a full, fresh out the theater review, but the air quality in the New York, Connecticut area that I live in was not very good because of these Canadian fires. And I did the 1 minute and I was like, I'm ready to get in the car, go home. And I got home and I passed out. So I was like, we'll sleep, we'll get up. I got some less hazy natural light to kind of light me up. And I've had a sleep after seeing this movie. So I feel ready to talk about it. And it's one that I thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, it's a classic summer blockbuster. And as far as this franchise goes, it's definitely top tier for that as well. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat? We are getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into Transformers Rise of the Beasts. And as I said in my 1 minute kind of short review, which if you don't want like detailed non-spoilers, you can see that review right there, and then you can come back if you want more after you've seen the movie maybe. But for me, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I mean, like I said, it's a classic summer blockbuster, and that is both, I guess, positive and negative depending on who you are. I can see why the critic scores are as low as they are, because there is a lot of genericness to some of the story here. The story, which comes from Joby Harold, Darnell Metayer, Josh Peters, Eric Hoeber, and John Hoeber, a lot of people on the script. It's not complicated. It's like I said, it's your typical summer blockbuster. You have you got your main characters. There's a threat that they got to deal with, and there's a MacGuffin that both groups are chasing, because that thing is going to be the thing that changes the tide one way or the other, all leading to a spectacular third act set piece. And that's not going to work for everybody. The dialogue in this movie is not necessarily the strongest, and there are certain elements of things that happen that might hit or miss for people. However, the thing that I do like that the writing crew does with this is that, one, it sets up our director, Stephen Caple Jr., to do some really cool Transformers stuff. It also feels like it's a Saturday morning cartoon come to life. One of the things that I've been throwing on in the lead up to Transformers, I mentioned I've been watching Armada, and that for me is nice to have in my catalog of viewing of recent Transformers things, because I think Cable Jr. has a really good grasp on a lot of different areas of Transformers, and there's definitely nostalgia nods to things that have come out of that show and that stretch run. But obviously, the G1s and the original Transformers movies certainly have a lot of, things in there as well. And that's the thing that the script does, is it kind of tees it up for Cable Jr. to be able to litter the screen with wonderful G1-inspired designs, phenomenal action, and really cool Transformers stuff. And the key to this script, and the reason that this ends up for me in the upper tier, which is just Bumblebee, and out of the Michael Bay-verse tier, is that the usage of the human characters feels more like the usage of human characters in the cartoons. Specifically, like I said, there's some Unicron trilogy vibes in there, and there's definitely stuff that came out of the original Transformers run. One of the things I recently watched was the movie. And when you watch the Transformers movie from 86, 80s animation, I love it. I just love it. It just brings back such a sense of nostalgia for me personally. But the other thing is that it's a simple, sometimes complicated plot. But it's mostly action, cool visual things, lots of stuff happening on the screen. And that's the thing that I liked that we got from the script, is that it lets Caple Jr. do all those cool things that Transformers fans are going to absolutely geek out about. But the way that they utilize the humans are assisting in a Transformers story, not the other way around. And the humans that we're here with, while there are several humans, we're mostly going to talk about Anthony Ramos and Dominic Fishback's characters. They're good characters. Like, you're invested in them, and you get just enough of their stories where it's like, cool, I can relate to these characters. I understand where they're coming from. And the fact that they're helping the Transformers in the ways that they are, I'm cool to ride with them. And that's what I mean. Like, they end up in places in the third act that are actually useful. They're not just kind of sitting back and being like, oh man, I'm getting tossed around and somebody catch me and all this. They're a useful piece to things that are going on. And I really, really appreciated that from the script. Now, everything else in the movie and why I enjoy this so much, I think really has to do with Stephen Caple Jr. and what he puts on the screen. I love how he uses the Transformers. You get those beautiful G1 inspired designs. There is more simplicity to the way specifically the faces work. A lot more Optimus covered up and this moving. But, you just don't overcomplicate the mouths when they are talking to each other. Very similar to the cartoons. And the action set pieces in this movie are unbelievable, man. I mean, the choreography is outstanding. Like, there are really, really well choreographed action set pieces. Specifically, the third act. Like, that's one of the things I love about this movie is that the action and what you're watching is in a constant build, and the third act really delivers in that realm. I mean, when we get it like picks itself back up, brings all the energy that's kind of been building throughout, and just delivers where you're just sitting there. And I mean, my theater was packed out on Wednesday night. People were cheering, people were clapping and hollering and laughing. Like I said, the humor was hitting in some spots. And, like, people were just having a good time, and that's what you look for. And I think the thing that Caple Jr. does the best is he doesn't make it feel like you're watching a CGI mess. Now, some people might think that way. Like I said, I'm not surprised by critic reviews on this, because the action, there's a lot going on, and a lot being thrown at you, and sometimes it's moving quick. But Caple Jr. shot on a lot of location, used real cameras. And that's one of the things where it's like a lot of times when you're getting bombarded with CGI, and then you look at things like, for me, this, or in a different realm, something like what the things that James Cameron is doing, all this CGI is there. When it's done really well, the CGI is good, and you're using actual cameras, it usually feels, you feel more tethered, where it's like you don't get that floating digital camera bit. And the sequences, like I said, that he choreographs and where he puts the camera, I mean, we've seen it in that trailer, that bit of a oneer. It's not a super long one, but he uses that technique several times to move you in and out of the action in this giant, almost like war type battle sequence. And all of that stuff is really, really cool, and I really thought he utilized the cast quite well. We'll start with the humans before we get to the Transformers and the Maximals. And I guess if there's one other minor criticism for me on this, I could have used more Maximals. You know what I mean? Like, for a Rise of the Beasts movie, it's really Optimus Primal and I think it's Air Razor, Michelle Yeoh's character. Like, her and Ron Perlman get the most to do out of that group, and there's, some Rhinox and a little bit of Cheetor, and they get some really cool moments. But I could have used a little bit more of those guys. But, as I said, starting with the humans, I loved Anthony Ramos in this. I've loved everything that he's pretty much done since he started doing things. But he's really, really good here as Noah Diaz. I don't necessarily know if I get soldier vibes from him, and his character is a veteran. But you definitely get, like, and that's one of the things I like that both Ramos and Fishback bring as people from Brooklyn. They're bringing that, like, that, he's tough, he can hang. And that's the thing that I like, is that he can hang, and he adds, and what they do with his character, like, Caple Jr. did something where I was like, yo, finally, we gotta go there? Cool, I'm about that. Then there's something else that they do with the character where I was like, I don't know if this is necessary, but, in a world where, like, we could play with things, I'm intrigued to see where we go. But the other thing that Ramos Noah has going for him is he has a little brother who has sickle cell anemia. So there's a really strong emotional connection there. And like I said, it's a very small bit of the story, but because of how Ramos ties into Mirage and how that plays into the brothers' story, you're able to take a human element that can connect us as an audience and bring it into the Transformers realm, and I thought it translated really well. And Ramos carries all of that stuff fantastic. He dominates in the action. He fits well when he doesn't know what's going on, and some of the humor in him being, like, absolutely scared the first time he's with Mirage was awesome. And, he brings a lot of the heart in this movie. And then you got Dominique Fishback, which I got to talk about Swarm at some point, which is on Amazon right now. The range that this girl has is insane. I mean, she is absolutely terrifying in that show. and she is so heartwarming and easy to root for. Like, and again, because they actually have roles to play in the third act, you're on the edge of your seat for some of the stuff with Dominique Fishback, and she is just great here. For me, like, she's like a ray of sunshine. Every time she's on screen, even if good things aren't necessarily happening, she just captures your attention in a way where I'm always more interested in what she's doing and how the chemistry between her and Ramos worked, and their chemistry with the Transformers played. It worked just absolutely beautifully. The other thing I will say, like I said, Anthony Ramos's kid brother, played by Dean Scott Vasquez, very, very good. Small bits, but like I said, emotionally connective. And then just because I've recently seen Spider-Verse, shout out to Lauren Velez, popping up everywhere, man. She's the mom here. She has like one scene, really heartwarming, and as soon as she came out, I was just like, oh man, it's Miles' mom. But it was really nice to see her kind of pop up. And I guess one other person we could talk about is Toby Nwigwe, who has a connection to Anthony Ramos, plays into a little bit of the comedy, and is a character that, like, if brought back in any of the other movies that Caple Jr. does, I'd like to see more for him, because I kind of, he's a rapper, but I thought he really kind of popped as Reek on screen. Now, let's flip into the good stuff, man. That's the Transformers. Obviously, Optimus Prime, it's so wonderful anytime that we get the genius that is Peter Cullen's voice. The original Optimus Prime. He's voiced Prime in all of the live-action movies, and he's just wonderful. It suits so well. But one of the things that I really dug that Caple Jr. did is that there is a real hesitance for Optimus as the leader of this group being on Earth. And that, for me, was something that kind of felt a little bit Armada-ish, in the sense that, like, when that show opens up, Optimus is very, very reluctant to join forces with the humans, and this version of Optimus is also a little reluctant, a little bit mean, and I think that's well deserved. There should be a little bit more of a reluctance, especially when you've been hiding out on the planet for a while. And that's one of the other cool things too, is that Caple Jr. has said this is a reboot, and this hopeful trilogy will be its own thing. And it definitely doesn't feel like it's connecting story-wise into the Bayverse, but it does feel like it comes straight from Bumblebee. And there's one thing that Optimus says that kind of makes you go, maybe this is, maybe these two movies are kind of connected in a way. But watching what Optimus does, like I said, as far as interacting with Ramos and the humans in general, along with the Transformers and eventually the Maximals, I really liked what we got from Cullen, and the action sequences for Optimus, like, you get rage mode Optimus, and it's fun to watch, man. I mean, Scourge, who's our villain here, voiced by Peter Dinklage, is a legit threat. And that's one of the other things I really like about the movie. And Optimus, he ain't holding back at times. And at other times, you get a little nervous for Optimus too, man, because like I said, Scourge is a legit threat, and I love Dinklage in this, man. I thought he did such a great job voicing Scourge, and I love anywhere that he pops up in general. And like I said, Scourge is scary both visually, but also how he acts. And there's a thing that they did with Scourge that involves Airazor that I thought was really, really cool. And it was interesting. And rewatching the 86 movie kind of gave me like a vibe of something that has to do with Unicron. But overall, I thought the Scourge sequences were cool. And like I said, I thought he was legitimately like a threatening villain that like was someone for Optimus. He got to build up to take that on come the third act. And there's some cool stuff that they do that route with those two characters. Ron Perlman, absolutely. Can't talk this morning. Loved him as Optimus Primal. He gets some of the coolest Maximal sequences visually. Just watching him and Optimus, the two Optimuses running together at certain moments for action sequences was really awesome. And Perlman's voice just so fits, a Transformer of any kind, but specifically a Maximal. He did a really, really nice job. Add in Airazor, voiced by Michelle Yeoh. Like I said, they do some interesting things with the character and the visuals that I really dug. And I thought Michelle Yeoh, I mean, she's a legend, man. As soon as her voice shows up, you're like, that fits that character so perfectly. Then you get like I said, the other Maximals in here, Rhinox, and you get Cheetor. Not a ton to do, but they do get some really, really cool moments. And then as far as the other Transformers, I kind of had a bit of the same vibe. Like, I really wanted more coming from RC. I also wanted more from Wheeljack. I thought Cristo Fernandez and Lizzie Koshy did a really, really great job voicing both of them. And they have nice moments in the movie, but it was like I wanted a little bit more. But most of our time, like I said, is with Optimus, and then we get a ton of Mirage, because Mirage is the character that's connected to Noah. And I thought Pete Davidson was phenomenal. I loved his take. I loved how they used Mirage, especially from an action standpoint, and how Mirage kind of grows as a character. Gave me a vibe that I thought was similar to like how Bumblebee grew, right? Like you come into these movies originally and it's like, you know, you're getting Optimus Prime, but we're riding with Bumblebee, and how Bumblebee kind of becomes a hero in and of himself. It was fun to watch Mirage, and specifically Pete Davidson's performance, do that as well. And then, of course, Bumblebee he's my personal favorite Transformer. Since the live action movies started, the way that they utilize him, the voice choices and things that come out of the radio in this one were great, and he has probably all of the best sequences. There is a utilization of him at one point where I was just like, the whole theater erupted. It was so freaking dope. And he also plays into like the high real stakes that exist in the movie. So yeah, I mean, I could have used a little bit more from some Transformers and some more Maximal stuff, but the stuff that we get and we see on screen is really cool, and I liked how they used all the characters. And the only other thing I think there is really to talk about that I haven't mentioned would be the score and the soundtrack. Oh, that's the real MVP of this whole movie, man. The soundtrack is just a 90s hip-hop mix, like the mixtape that you'd make for yourself to play in the car, man. It hits and it works so well, and specifically in some of those Bumblebee sequences, man, like you just, let's go. And the score as well, I thought really played quite well. But yeah, overall, I think this is a really fun movie. You get wonderful performances, and I think Stephen Caple Jr. is setting up something that's going to be really fun to see where it goes down the road. So, Unicron. I probably should talk about Unicron, shouldn't I? I dug how they used Unicron, and I think it could set itself up to do more things, right? I think it's one of those things where some people could be a little hesitant about using Unicron in the first of a potential trilogy. But one, if you don't get any other chance to do it, right? Like say this movie bombs and they decide not to make any more, that's not going to happen. But say that was the case, I like the fact that they went for it, and how they used Unicron I thought worked. And visually, and again, after watching the 86 movie as well, I thought the Unicron stuff really hit, and I'm really interested to see where we go next. So let's get the Sea Maniacs up, and real quick, just kind of give this guy a score. Like I said, typical summer blockbuster. It's not going to work for everybody. It's a simple story. You're chasing a lot of MacGuffin stuff. There's a lot of action going on, and the humor can be kind of loud, and that might not work for everybody. But for Transformers fans, I think the action is stellar. The set pieces that Stephen Caple Jr. sets up and the choreography of those set pieces is, I think, fantastic. The visual effects are stellar as per usual with the Transformers. I think this movie has a heart, and the humor for me works specifically because Pete Davidson, I think, really shines in this movie as Mirage. I liked how we used the human characters. Anthony Ramos and Dominic Fishback are not only, people that you can relate to, but they bring an emotional weight from their small human stories that then transfers into the big Transformers story here that we have. And that's the other thing that I love. The humans here are utilized right. They are the supporting cast to the Transformers and that story. And I'm really excited to see where they go because they're likable characters. The stuff with the Transformers is great. Same with the Maximals. Like I said, the action in this is nuts. Could have used a little bit more Maximals, but considering where we're going, there's time for that. And the soundtrack and the score just really, really hit. And all around, this for me is a fun family blockbuster that you can go see this summer if you're looking to get out of the heat. I'm going 3.5 out of 5 stars. I really dug this. This is definitely more in the vein of Bumblebee. It's not quite as good, but it's coming from that and the love. You can feel the love and the fact that like Stephen Caple Jr. is making these movies for the fans. It feels that way, and I think as a Transformer fan, that should make you excited. As a Transformer adjacent fan, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I had a great time, and I'm very excited. So that's it. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna flip it over to you. Let's talk to the Transformers fans first. How's this working? What kind of nostalgia vibes are you getting? Did you like the Easter eggs that Caple Jr. put in here? Do you think we're in good hands with Stephen Caple Jr.? What was popping? What wasn't? Keep it spoiler free, but I want to know what you're thinking first and foremost, because you guys, these are your toys, literally, right? And then people like myself, maybe that are adjacent, or just kind of passerby Transformers fans, maybe just live action movie fans. Maybe you're just an action fan. You're like, hey, you know what? New Transformers, I've never been in. Let me get in. What'd you guys think, man? Did this work for you? Are you going to come back? Are you here for seconds? Will you see it multiple times? And then for those who haven't seen it, are you going to go to the theater? I would recommend IMAX, which is where I'm going to go next. The Wednesday night screening I had was in Dolby. Dolby is a good second option if you can't hit an IMAX, because the sound was kicking, man. The seats were vibrating in certain moments, so that was a lot of fun. So are you gonna go check it out in the theaters? If so, what version of theater will you go to? Or are you gonna wait for it to hit streaming? Or are you just gonna pass this one by? Anything you got, man, good, bad, indifferent, on Transformers Rise of the Beasts, put it down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you're new, you want to come hang out with C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions, you want to be here for any of the other big summer blockbuster movies we got coming. The summer is packed, right? Like, we might be on the verge of some bad stuff with the potential strikes coming and already going on. But for the summer, we got lots to come. We got The Flash coming up. We got Elemental coming up. This week in particular is really packed. There's another movie in there. You got Jennifer Lawrence's comedy coming out, I think, in a week or two. So you want to be here for any of that coverage. You just dig the vibe. You want to show a little love and support to the old C-Man. Well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. It's where you can do all those things and hang out with a pretty cool group of people, in my opinion. And you can do that simply by jumping over there, hitting that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace! Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got two video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.